Coming to you from the Tar Heel State, this is the Carolina Commercial Real Estate Connection, bringing you industry insights and hot takes from Carolina real estate experts, helping you begin, grow, and scale your commercial real estate portfolio. And now your hosts, Tony Johnson and Cameron Pearson.
Welcome to another episode of Carolina Commercial Real Estate Connection. Today we have Ben Gaines joining us. Ben is the owner and operator of United Properties out of Greensboro, North Carolina. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tony.
Yes, sir. So Ben, could you take a quick moment and give everyone a little background about yourself, just so we have a baseline on starting?
Yeah. Country boy, grew up right outside of Greensboro in a little town in Chatham County called Siler City. May recognize that from the Andy Griffith show with Ain't B. But I just recently found real estate, back in 2019. My firm is located here in Greensboro. And as you know, I have a real love for the game, as I call it. But I have a wife and have a 16-year-old son who is trying to play college baseball one day. So we spend a lot of time focused on that. And that's pretty much it.
That's a pretty simple, quick story, Ben, but that's good. Yeah. All right. So in 2019, you say you got in real estate. So prior to 2019, when you got in real estate, what were you doing? What drew you to real estate?
Yeah. So it's funny. It's the old cliche. Back in late 18, I was on a long drive and, a useful fact for everybody to know: Rich Dad, Poor Dad streams for free on YouTube. So somehow I was searching for inspirational content and I found that book on a long drive, a 6.5 hour drive. And I pretty much was able to finish the book on that drive. And I tell you, there was something about that book that really got to me. The fact that this guy could want something for himself, a Porsche, a car, and he could go out and he could find an asset and sell that asset or maintain that asset and then go buy that for himself without using financing like everybody else was, really stuck with me. And it immediately resonated with me. So quickly following that, I think the next book I streamed was $1 Million Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. And then I went into podcasts, and just, with a vigor, that first year, 2020, I listened to, or first year of 2019, I listened to a book a week on Audible, which is a great tip for everybody out there. While you're in your car riding around looking at houses or looking at real estate, you might as well be educating yourself. And my coach is big about that, Greg Dickerson, who we share. He's really big about, don't waste time. You can be learning rather than listening to music, although I love music, but you can be picking up knowledge, as you're looking at properties. And I still do that today. But,
I would say
Tony.
that as far as that point, I find myself these days, if I happen to, let's say, leave my phone, I basically connect my phone and do the Apple and jump on a podcast or a book at all times. If I don't, I listen to country music and it blares in my truck, but then I feel guilty almost that I'm listening to music. I'm like, gosh, I'm wasting this drive that I could be educating myself, listening to some music, right? I mean, it is addictive to a point where you're just like, you want to constantly gain more and more knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. And I can relate to that feeling of guilt, because you never know when you're going to hear something that's going to help you with that next deal. And you and I, we were in a shared mastermind meeting yesterday, and there was a young lady who's fairly new in real estate, and she asked a question. And I was able to answer that question, not only from my experience, but from something that I had recently heard. And so you never know when you're going to hear something that'll help somebody, or that will help you in your next endeavor. And so yeah, I have that feeling of guilt if I don't listen to a book or a podcast in the car on these drives, and I'm in the car a lot, so I'm fortunate that I get to cover a lot of content.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much information out there now. Pretty much any direction you wanted to go, you could find books, and like you said, so that there's just so much knowledge to gain. So that's one of the things I'm working on is more of the podcast, listening to more of the things in the commercial real estate world, and already the learning curve is starting to fill. So
yeah, and there's constantly more to learn, different ways to analyze deals, different ways to put deals together. Right now, you listen to some of these people, the most people that are putting the deals together right now are people that understand how to do creative deals, right? Because the traditional deals just don't pencil.
And listen, I have an opinion on the creative deals. So I just came from Charleston, one of the mastermind groups that I'm a part of, and that I'm kind of becoming a leader in. And the founder of the group and I were having dinner Thursday night. We were having some conversations. And I love creative deals. I mean, look, I'll share more about it, but my first deal was a sub 2. I didn't have any money. I couldn't buy an umbrella. So I assumed somebody's loan and borrowed a little bit of rehab funds and flipped the house, and ran from there. But a little thing about, this creative financing, especially in the real estate world, when people are trying to hold rentals, I'm just real careful to point out to the new guy that equity is important, that, people are so willing to give you your number if you will owner finance or allow a loan assumption. But it's also so important to remember 2008. And in 2008, it wasn't not only hard to sell a house, but it was hard to keep a rental booked. And so if you've got this house that doesn't cash flow, and you've got your portfolio, what you've got to be careful to do is have enough equity in that portfolio and have enough cash flow in that portfolio that if 25% of your rentals sit vacant, that you don't go bankrupt, or you don't lose all these houses. So it's important that people negotiate equity no matter the structure. And so I try to remind people of that. And I never give anybody their number unless it's just it's a parcel or something that I need to put together a bigger deal. But on a one-off residential home that I'm flipping, or that I would plan to hold, I would never give anybody a retail number. I mean, we're investors. We have to have equity for this thing to really work. And I think a lot of guys out there might see themselves, getting in trouble, paying full retail on a loan assumption or on a owner finance. So I think it's important to point that out, that equity is important.
Yeah, I think it's important too that what you're seeing normally in that situation is a more educated seller than a buyer, right? So I mean, it flips both ways. So somebody in your position, you would potentially sell or finance something to somebody if they're going to pay more money, right?
Right.
So you, I mean, on your perspective, it's a way to make more money. But yeah, I agree 100% on the buyer side. Yeah, you don't want to overpay, and we've seen a lot of that, and a lot of that's got buried in the last 3 years or so, where people are just paying these ridiculous amounts of money for things, and they had these rosy pictures they were writing for pro formas and everything, and a lot of these things are going to come back to bite those people, I think. In a couple of years, probably from now, when some of those commercial loans mature on the commercial properties. So the residential, I think, as long as it cash flows and you can kind of wait it out, right? It's a cash flow play.
Yeah, absolutely. But you have to keep in mind, the vacancies, your vacancy rate. I mean, it's so important that, that you do have equity and that you do have cash flow, so that if something happens and 25% of your properties lay vacant, or there's a moratorium, which we still hear talk of. I don't know why there would be one, where we live, but we still hear talk of, and some of your properties are not, you're not receiving money for those properties that you're able to cover your notes, and that's so important. I'm just seeing so many guys pay so close to retail, and it just scares me. I mean, I'm the standard simple 70% of retail, minus repairs guy. And you know what, man, I've got more houses than I've ever had. We put one under contract yesterday. We're putting another one under contract today. And those are my offers. And I very seldom waver from that standard formula. It just works for me. And I've missed out on some deals. Don't get me wrong. I could have grown faster over the last couple of years, but I'm happy with where I'm at. And we've got all we can handle. So I think our growth is happening at the perfect pace, to be honest with you. I think I'm sticking to my guns, so.
To your point, if you didn't live through 2008 attached to real estate, you don't quite understand that there is a possibility of 25, even 50% vacancy.
Yeah.
So right now it's so easy to rent something that people are, I think, jumping in thinking, oh, it's going to be like this forever. And I really, I can't see that happening.
Right. That was the thought mentality back then. Oh, it'll never go down.
Never go down.
Just like now, that's all the talking heads I hear. Nothing's ever going to go down. Nothing is ever going. You're never going to see these vacancies. The rental rates are never going to go down. They only go up. So I don't understand that thought process. I mean, there are market cycles with everything. We have been in a growing market
Crazy
cycle for, going 12, 13 years now, where we've experienced growth. I mean, there has to be a correction at some point. So I do worry about a lot of people, their position where they're going to be in. I mean, does it create opportunity for us? Sure. But that's going to have a lot of pain on people, which is not good.
Yeah, I mean, to your point on commercial and multifamily, I mean, these guys who are seeing their balloon, their adjustable rate mortgages, that the balloons, come in the next couple of years. I mean, I can't imagine how they're going to make some of these deals work. I just can't imagine. And so, the short sale is an option. I mean, I don't think anybody's feeling enough. Any of the banks are feeling enough pain to even consider short sales in most situations right now. But I think your ability to negotiate a short sale is going to come in handy over the next several years. And so, I'm with you. There's market cycles, and I wasn't around in 2008, but I listened to so much stuff, and I know we're bound to see a downturn. I mean, even a year. Look at us. Greg always harps on me about our yearly. Look at the yearly trends. So I know August is slow. I know it is. July and August are slow for the residential real estate market. I've got one house that's fully rehabbed. It's beautiful. It's been listed for 5 days and it's had 2 showings. I think if I listed this house at the end of September, I think it would have had 20 showings. I just think that you have to pay attention to the cycles, and I'm well aware of that. And that's why I'm buying heavy right now, because, I feel like that I can get these renovations done in a timely manner and get them back on the market for that little bit of a peak that we see before we go into those winter months. And you just have to pay attention to those cycles, and know what you're getting yourself into. And so, that's kind of why I'm not too worried. Last year, this time, I was freaking out. I was like, why is nobody looking at my house? What's wrong with it? Like, what do I need to do? Do I need to do more work to it? And now I'm just maintaining it, mowing the yard, doing the advertising I need to do. And I'm comfortable with it because I'm aware that these things happen. And so looking at the bigger picture, I'm aware that the market's going to take a hit at some point, and you need to have equity. And I know that. So
that would lead me to, what do you do? How are you sourcing these properties that you're getting under contract? What's your game plan there?
Yeah, so I'm direct to seller marketing. I have TV commercials on ABC, CBS, and NBC. And I also do some digital television where, I'm on people's Hulu boxes on certain channels like Pluto and Paramount and some of these channels, on your digital box. So I'm on 3 local broadcast stations here, out of Greensboro and Winston-Salem that run a 45 to 60 mile radius. And then with my digital television, I'm able to pinpoint my markets. So I'm able to go after zip codes, and you may see me down in Wilmington a little bit. I threw those zip codes in. So you may be watching your Hulu box one night. I mean, I know you guys don't watch too much TV. Y'all are always working, but if you're sitting there with your wife one night, I may pop up on your screen. And I apologize in advance. So
I will take a picture and send it to you.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's coming back to you, Ben.
Right. Now, let's go through. I know you briefly stated your first deal was a subject to. So let's just kind of dive in on that deal and walk through somebody that might not understand that, and kind of, could you go through how you negotiated that and the steps in the process and how you made the deal work? Could you walk us through that deal?
Yeah, and I've got to expand a little, on my coaching situation, because that takes me into that deal. During that year of 2019, listening to so many podcasts, I heard a guy named Greg Dickerson, and Tony, Greg, of course, and so I emailed Greg and got almost an immediate response. And so, Greg was helpful in answering questions and talking with me on the phone there for the first several months. And so I went into this deal, and it's funny. You guys will recognize that this date will resonate with you. But February of 2020, I started this company, and I put a logo on the side of my truck. And one of my neighbors, who I didn't know all that well, called me, and by this time I had gotten my real estate license, and they wanted me to list their home. But after they found out that a cash offer was an option, we went that route. So we were under contract to close in February, and we're a week away from closing. And of course, the banks freaked out because of COVID. So this hard money lender that I was using, essentially wanted me to bring an additional $60,000 to closing. And I found that out, just briefly before this, that we were supposed to close. So, of course, I called Greg and I spoke to my attorney, and both back to back, I was sitting in a Whole Foods parking lot, and back to back, both of these guys said, well, why don't you see if you can assume the loan? And I thought, who in the heck's going to let this guy that's never done a house assume their loan? And they're like, just ask, you never know what'll happen. And of course, I asked, and I offered a little bit more money with the deal to them on the back end, and I'll be dogged, they accepted it. So that was how I got into that first deal with absolutely no money.
That's amazing. Right. So that's how, sometimes you gotta, if you can think creative, and sometimes that pressure of getting into a deal and you not wanting to lose the deal will help you think creative. And always having mentors to reach out to is extremely important. I'm a big believer in that as well. Greg has been awesome. And the thing that popped out to me said that you emailed him and he emailed you right back. So Greg is fantastic with time management, which is critical once you start trying to develop and grow any business, is time management. And so, as you can build your business and kind of get repeatable tasks off of your plate, and you can free up some of that time, you're able to respond to inquiries quickly, especially important ones, right? So
yeah, it's funny with Greg, he lives a no backlog life. So if a task takes him less than 2 minutes, he does it immediately. So in other words, if someone sends him an email and he looks down at his phone and he's free, he answers, and he answers that email immediately. I'm not so efficient at that, but I'm working on it. I'm trying. And I think a key to that is delegating. So I'm still hiring, we're really small. And so there's a lot of tasks that I probably shouldn't be doing that I am doing. But yeah, I mean, that no backlog life, man, what an efficient way to live.
Yeah. Well, it's good to do the tasks, and then you get a system for it, and then you can write that system down, then delegate it out. So that's a good thing. And your company's still growing. So let's go a little bit further into when you're sourcing deals and putting deals, when you're saying that you're getting, you're offering everyone 70% of retail minus repairs. So
Yep.
could you walk someone through, maybe they don't understand, how do they know what the retail is to get at 70% to even know what to offer to do a system like you're doing?
Well, I'm blessed. I do own a real estate firm, and my broker in charge comps all of my properties using a software called RPR, which is directly linked to the MLS. And of course, it's not as simple as plugging into RPR and getting a number. You have to make adjustments, and you actually have to apply skill to the comping process. But the cool thing is tools like PropStream and Batch will allow you to apply the same process. They'll allow you to pull properties. They'll allow you to find like properties that have sold within the last, it's good to do 90 days within that neighborhood, because real estate is hyper local. So comparing a property that you're looking at to a property that's even in another neighborhood can sometimes be extremely detrimental. So it's important that you keep your radius as tight as possible, and you keep your timeline as tight as possible when you're comping properties. And there's all sorts of tools. I mean, I would even dare to say that if you use realtor.com and Redfin and possibly even Zillow, if you use those tools and you keep your radius tight, that you would have the ability to comp a property at no cost. But for me, I'm fortunate. I do have a broker in charge here at my firm. We're members of 4 MLSs and the commercial real estate MLS CoStar. So we're able to comp almost anything and have immediate numbers. And I trust her numbers. So
That's awesome. And then how are you figuring your repairs? How are you doing that?
well, that's interesting. So a guy taught me a long time ago, we just, it's kind of crazy. I've gotten now to where I'm pretty good at my numbers. I know that what price per square foot flooring is going to be, and so I can take, the square footage of the house, and I can multiply that by the flooring and the cost to install the flooring. I've got all these numbers on hand. But previously, what a guy taught me when I first started this process was you just multiply 10 times the square footage to find your number. So in other words, if you have an HVAC system, in other words, you just take these big blocks off. So I know an HVAC system is going to cost me $10,000 to $15,000 on a house. I know a roof is going to cost me $10,000 to $15,000 on a house. So at least in my area, I know in your area it can be more expensive. But so what I do is, I block off these bigger things, and then I go from there. But another thing you can do, I mean, you can ask somebody. I mean, it's like you said, it's so important to have mentors in the business. And so if you have relationships with real estate agents and with contractors and with handymen, I mean, you can call around and get a general idea. I mean, I have to do that sometimes. I run into problems that I don't know exactly what it's going to take to fix. And I always lean towards the heavier side. If we're looking at a $50,000 repair, then I usually budget 10 to 20% more than that for those repairs. So if it's 50,000, then I'll budget 60,000. And that tends to keep me out of trouble. Of course, there's been a few times when we've had some issues that went outside of that 10. And then there's been a few times, as you know, where, I've got a $50,000 rehab and I come in at 40. But what I find is that's rare.
Yeah, what I'm seeing down here, and you're lucky that so I think since you've been in the game now a while, is the issue that comes around for someone newer getting in the game of this fix and flip of a home is, you call someone like me to fix and flip a house. I'm not going to be able to do anything for $40,000 fixing and flipping a house. You
Right.
have to find that handyman / contractor that can do a bunch of stuff and maybe has a couple subs that are owner operators that can do these things at a real tight budget, because your money on these fix and flips is dependent upon that. So you can't call someone that's a normal GC that's doing, new builds or big, huge renovations and say, here, I got a fix and flip house. I've got to get this thing flipped and back on the market, for 30, 40, $50,000. And I'm be like, yeah, that's about the flooring, and we'll paint the house. And that's about it. Right. But you get the right people, and then, you keep consistent with that, you can do it. I know Cameron he just sent me a house he found the other day and was like, yeah, what do you think about flipping this? I'm like, man, that's like $200 a foot. I'm looking at this thing. You got a gut. You probably got structural problems, and he's
I'm thinking it's like $18 a foot is where I'm at. I mean,
he's like, what am I going to do with this? I don't, this is like twice what the houses cost, but you would probably look at it and be like, well, we could probably get away with putting 40,000 in there and make the deal work. Right. When he's looking at it, for me, it's hard to.
So Ben, I need your number instead of Tony's. It sounds like I made the wrong phone call.
You let me know.
Another person. Yeah. But okay, so let's go a little bit deeper in how you're contacting these owners. So do you do ringless voicemail? Do you cold call? Do you do mailers? How do you attack them? I know you said you advertise on TV, but do you reach out direct to any of them, or is that the only way that you're attracting business?
Well, so when I first started this business, I was doing a little bit of cold calling and texting, and what I found is outbound marketing is not for me. First of all, I'm running a real estate firm, and there are a lot of regulations that, with the real estate commission, with the DNC list, the do not contact list, and you have to be extremely careful about contacting people. So the only cold calls that I make are on parcels of land that I need, that I'm working on to put together, potential developments, or maybe a one-off house that I will pass. There's several down in Wrightsville Beach that I'm calling right now. You see these houses, they need a full renovation, and I'm like, well, I will reach out to those folks. But my typical marketing is mass marketing via direct mail and television. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get folks calling me. Now, once they're in my system, of course we follow up. But what I attempt to do is I use pay-per-click marketing, I use Facebook marketing, I use we're about to start some YouTube marketing as well. And then, of course, TV is my big thing. And so what I'm trying to do, and we use a little direct mail. So what I'm trying to do is coerce people who actually have a need into calling me. And so that's where I find the most success, and that's where I find the least stress. You're not dealing generally with angry people who are upset that you interrupted their dinner, or they've just had a bad day and they take it out on you. And of course, I've used VAs for that cold calling process. I'm a big VA guy. I completely believe in VAs. But also what I find is there's a cultural distance between the folks here in my area and a VA, say in Egypt or the Philippines or Mexico. And it's just hard for me to find deals that way. And equality leads that way. Now, there are plenty of people who are doing that, and I'm not disregarding it by all means. But what I like to do, I am a branding guy. I just made Lamar Advertising an offer here in town on 3 billboards. So, I'm all about the brand. As you guys can see, you can't see my logo behind me, but I've got my logo behind me. And then, I wear the same shirt every single day. Now, I've got a few of them, but I wear the same shirt every day.
Not the exact same shirt, just looks the same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about my brand. I mean, I've got the United Properties tattoo over here, so it's with me,
Some of the most successful people in the world just wear the same outfit every day because, as guys, it's a waste of time to think about what to wear. So when you simplify, that's what my wife says, like, you look like you wear the same thing. When you buy clothes, they'll look the same. I'm like, well, it's repeatable. I don't have to think. I can grab anything in the closet.
It is repeatable.
That's right. Yeah. I don't want to have to think about it every day. Just like I eat the same breakfast every day. I don't want to think about anything. I want to get these things done, get out of the way, and go figure out how to make some money.
That's right. That's right. And I'm a shoe guy, so I'll switch up the shoes. But man, I'm generally jeans and this shirt, and every day, even the same tank top under the shirt. Like just keep everything simple and excuse me, and move on. I've got stuff to do. So that's how I live.
Yeah. Something that I did want to say, I know, one thing that I think that we still need to keep an eye on, and I know you brought it up kind of with the bank situation. So the banks right now, I just was listening yesterday to a YouTube cast, and they were saying that Moody's just downgraded US Bank and Fifth Third Bank. So there are still banks, larger banks in this country that are seeing some financial distress. And I think we need to keep an eye on that. That could very well create some type of a problem here in the system where, if the liquidity really dries up, I know it was short of drying up, but transactions have still happened with cash. Right. It seems like though when these banks continue to tighten and more of them getting financial issues, that could really be a trigger to slowing down this economy and putting us into a negative run here, which, all the talk, I still haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I know. I thought we'd already be in it. So
yeah, although, I should say where you went back to real estate is local. It is the local, the Eastern Carolinas are number one in the nation right now. So that just came out yesterday, that our growth percentage and valuation growth is number one in the nation. Did you guys realize that? That's amazing.
Yeah. And Greensboro, North Carolina and the surrounding counties are exploding as well. So it's funny, how my markets work. I market in 5 local counties here, and then in New Hanover and Brunswick, in you guys' area. And so I know where the growth is. I know where the sheltered growth is as well. And I think Wilmington is going to continue to grow despite the economy. Now, we may not see some of these prices we're seeing, but I think that real estate's going to sell, especially, some of these commercial deals like we're looking at. And then Greensboro, I mean, we've had several different plants move into this area. We've got a microchip company, that's coming in within 20 miles of here. We've got Toyota battery plant, which is huge. I mean, Toyota's invested billions of dollars into this plant. We've got Sonic Boom, which is the new jet that's coming into Greensboro, along with there's just I can list this company after company that's coming to Greensboro. So we continue to see amplified growth in this area, and there is still a shortage in housing. I mean, if you look on market, I mean, we're still, listings are not there's not a ton of listings, and so that gives me something to cater to, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So the people that are contacting you directly, what do you see as their pain point? Typically, is there a common theme, or is everyone just a different type of pain point?
No, I love this. And I was speaking to someone yesterday. I've started doing a little bit of coaching, and so that's so fulfilling to me. But I was letting somebody know, that and it's so far. I own a real estate firm, so I obviously don't despise real estate agents, but a lot of real estate agents can't conceptualize that there are different motivations than money. So we run into that all the time. I mean, I closed on a deal last week where if we wouldn't have purchased the home, the bank was going to take the home back. Well, because we purchased the home, the lady walked away with $60,000 in equity. Well, the bank wasn't going to give her $60,000 equity. They were going to walk away with it. We ran into an issue where we signed a contract on a home yesterday. Well, honestly, the home is filled with mold. An agent can't safely list that home on the market and allow people to walk through. I mean, it's a liability. We bought another home where the guy just, honestly, he just doesn't want people walking through his house. He just really doesn't. He's older, he's on oxygen. He just doesn't want people trampling all over his home and possibly making him, sicker. And so we run into all sorts of different motivations, probate deals where the family's just trying to get a quick price, and they don't want any strings. They want to negotiate one time and move on. So I have a 6-step process, and I don't want to share that whole thing with you guys, but what I will say is the first 5 steps help me identify how I can help somebody in the 6th step. And that's what my business is about. So I'll go out to your home, and unlike a lot of wholesalers, I will actually tell you what your house is worth on a retail market. Like I mentioned, I have my broker in charge here, Tiffany. She will run a comp on the home. I will tell you what your home is actually worth on the retail market, and I will encourage you to list your home. But money isn't always the motivator. So I'll also give them my offer price. And I would say 1 out of 10 times people go with that offer price, and they decide, to take a smooth cash transaction, close within 2 weeks. I don't do inspections. We sign a contract. I'll pay your closing, leave what you want, take what you want, leave what you don't. Don't mow the yard for me. Don't do anything. Don't even sweep. I don't really care. And so I make it really easy on people. And sometimes, that fits their motivation. So we're just trying to identify how we can help people the best. I'm not trying to push them in any direction. Although I do encourage them to list, because people's houses are their number one asset. It's their largest asset. So if the motivation is financial, I want to try to get them the most money as possible. And the way to do that in this market is to allow me to create a marketing package, get drone photos, do all the things that we do, put it on Facebook and put it out there in all these MLSs, and let the masses fight over it. If you're looking to get top dollar. So
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
point.
that's great.
Yeah, I think the key is, going back to what you say, it's not always about money all the time. You really got to look at some of these situations. It's the same thing with commercial properties. So if you want to sell a retail strip center, you might have month-to-month tenants. And if you list this building, you might lose tenants. Then your building's worth less. So you could, in essence, want to sell that building without putting it on the market to not freak out your tenants. And so then when you have, instead of having 50 people walk through, you have someone that comes along that's going to buy it, that, puts no strings attached, says they'll close quickly, and allows that person to get out a lot cleaner than putting it on the market where, could you get more money? Maybe, but could you put yourself in a really bad situation? Also, yes, maybe. Right. So there's 2 sides of every coin with something like that. So I agree 100%. There's, about a 10% of the market out there is looking for something where they would be able to happier to trade off market than going on market. So they might be wanting or willing to sell, but not feel like going through the hassle, not feel like cleaning out their whole house to get it ready to list, or do all these upgrades that they know they're going to have to do in order to sell it on the retail market.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And some folks just don't have the money to make these fixes that are required, And so, a mold mediation can be $20,000,
Right.
And so I mean, and I tell you, we do buy some homes that are just completely unsafe to the average person, who's walking through. And of course, I could show you things that would blow your mind. And so we take care of the problem. I mean, that's what we do. We solve problems. And so I think that's what any
you're getting
business
paid to
does.
solve a problem and then creating a nice, safe home for somebody else to take over. I mean, there is a
Exactly.
service you're providing, and you're making money for that service. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I want to say something, so there is a point where you can over renovate a house. So we're very careful not to over renovate a house. But it's also very important to me to make the house safe and to do all the major things so that people don't have to worry. Like recently we bought a home, and we noticed there was some water in the basement. And so we dug up the foundation and we waterproofed it, and we put in a French drain. Now that was not in the budget. But I don't want somebody buying this house and closing on it in 30 days and then realizing in a month when we have a heavy rain that their basement's flooded, and we didn't anticipate this, but we try to make, those major repairs that are most important. And, on top of that, as far as my budget goes, it's my job as a real estate investor to negotiate these things down. It's my job to provide my contractors with enough work that they give me a very fair price. And as you know, Tony, I'm sitting for my unlimited GC license, and I keep putting that test off because I'm focusing on the business, but which I think is the right choice. But I'm trying to bring that in-house, not that I want to be on the job site, doing the work, but I want to bring that whole process in-house. But that's just for permitting, and that's just for managing the jobs. I'm still going to continue to negotiate with subcontractors and contractors who are best fitted to do this work and do it properly. So but it's my job to work that price and make sure that the job is done properly and the house is safe.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I'm actually sitting for my GC too. I'm actually just started the study class. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a little daunting. Yeah.
Yeah. I took I actually took the study course there in Wilmington. I was like, if I'm gonna sit through this thing, I'm gonna be somewhere I love. So I came down and sat and then at least was able to relax the couple of days before and after. But I was talking to my coach Greg yesterday, and he said, "Have you taken the test yet?" And I said, "No." I said, "We picked up. We're so busy." I think one thing that entrepreneurs do that I'm really bad at is like we chase squirrels. So my business is picked up. My goal is to buy 10 more houses before the end of the year, and I bet we buy 15 more. So like I have to focus on that right now. Right now, 100% of my focus needs to be on what I'm doing and hiring people to handle this new workload. But during Christmas, when I have some free time, or maybe November when the market slows or something like that, I'm going to really dig in and study and take this test. It's just right now I have to maintain my focus on the horse that got me in the race, you know what I mean? And that's buying houses and listing houses. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, Ben, thanks so much for coming on today. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, to maybe get some more information on flipping houses, or just, get in contact with you, maybe to have you buy their house, what's the best way for somebody to reach you?
Yeah, you can go to unitedpropertiesnc.com. As you'll see that address is here behind me. Or I love for people to email me directly. It's ben@unitedpropertiesnc.com.
Awesome. And we'll put that in the show notes. Ben, it's been a pleasure having you on today, man. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you, Ben.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. And you have a great day.
You too,
All right,
sir.
you too, bud.
Appreciate it.
All right.